Okay, so here we are in Battlefleet Mars, first battle of Pallas. In the first video, I went through a lot of the mechanisms, playing them out. Went through a lot of discussion regarding what I find wrong with this particular gamette or whatever, and what leads me to kind of not necessarily want to play out the battles because of it, having to do with the technology, the limited technologies. We'll see if the missiles make and fighters make things a lot more interesting. And we've seen it approach and very little damage done. So far, we've got a repair hit on one of the miners for the Martians and a couple of hits on the big Ares catapult, which is this ship here. One of those hits is its burn rate. It has no capacity to maneuver anymore. Because of that, here in the joint burn phase, I'm going to not change anything. It might come to a point where I decide I have to come back with most of my ships, and that one will just go flying off at its relatively high speed. I mean, it'll end up outside the battle if I can't fix that. Meanwhile, ship 221 here, they're all named. The Grunger is going to spend one more fuel and get rid of its burn so that it's in conjunction with everything else. I might have wanted to move one more to get on top of the base. I chose not to. Screw it. For whatever reason. I think I should have just been all stacked together though to begin with. And I marked that down there. What have I been burning here? What the hell? Oh, everybody burnt one. Okay. Yeah. Because we went down from a 4 to a 3. We slowed down a little bit. Missile and fighter salvo. I'm going to do the combat phase. I'm going to step away. You've seen how the mechanisms work. I'll give a report on anything too exciting. But for the most part, we don't expect much to happen from it, from what we've seen. It's highly variable. Ships can just get destroyed by a single hit. Pretty much no matter what. A single laser firing at range 9 can destroy a ship if it gets lucky over here on this 6 chart, right? Big flash here. I fired initially on the base, got no result. Got a launch capacity, it doesn't matter. I don't think bases ever have launch, do they? They do. Oh no, they do. Okay, so they could have missiles or fighters on board. Cool. But the base fired back. Probably I don't know. It's still a good target. So it fired back at the catapult, which did not fire yet. And it destroyed it on a single hit. Sure, it's 6 points at range 0. But that catapult was named the next shot was by a single one of these. Get some more white counters. By a single one of these miners on this. This is the ship that had a repair damage on it. So whatever I do to it, it's not going to repair. Well, I managed to get a big hit on their laser and actually completely knock out their laser. This is 227 here. Their laser is completely marked off now. It's marked below the 0 box is marked off. It's completely marked off. That means it has no laser. It cannot fire. And this is one of the, I don't know if this is a cripple condition, but this is one of the conditions that you cannot repair. So you cannot repair cheaply. If I end up at the end of the battle, wherever this might end up being, it would have to spend an economic point in the main game to repair that. Now, what have we fired? We fired none of the reds except the base fired. So we can do a full shot. Is there anything available? This is the one ship that's available. Is that what I want to pick on? Maybe not. So I may, well, see, no. I'm trying to figure out I don't think there's a way, yeah, this can't fire, so all I have is these three. So yeah, this would be my only fire group shot if I took one. Do I want to take one? Probably. And I can pick on that one of the remaining things. I might go for the guy on the edge. That's 1, 2, 1. That'll be 2 distance, which will go down to a 0. I'm not really gaining a lot off of this. Maybe I just want to plink with one ship at a time. Yeah, I still want to go after this. The only thing is, if I hit this, yeah, I'll hit it with the full. Let's see, what do we got? Oh no, we got this guy. He's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'd be at range 2 on him. Yeah, I don't think we're going to do fire groups. I think we're going to shoot individual ships. So, to pick on this, let's pick on the edge guy. Get him out of there. I'll fire a 2 at that. We'll show you one more combat, just because I'm babbling so much. Okay, so we're on the 3. We're at range 0. It's not going to kill. It gets a B1. It kills a burn off of 229. I think what you're going to see, unlike in a lot of games, is that space combat isn't going to be that deadly. Because fleets are going to make a pass and then have to make a decision, can they afford to burn? And the units that are left and are still able to fight and whatnot, are they enough to take it out? And quite often that decision is going to be no. Because you're going to almost always be coming in against, with a fixed velocity to begin with, that maybe you don't want to dump or slow down and just turn it into a siege type situation. You want to do that pass by so you have the option to keep going. And the other guy will be far enough away, it'll be hard for him to burn up to catch you with anything significant. Plus his base, which he's likely to have in these battles, is going to be kind of a fixed point. It's his most powerful ship. So, and it can't chase you. The effect of all that firepower was a couple of that came after this got crippled or whatever, is that these 2 ships each lost a burn value. Now in the repair phase, we look through and we look for damages. So he's got a burn, again 1 to 3, he gets that back. So he repairs his damage and it just has no effect. And same thing with this 221 that's below him on the chart. He does not repair. So, we're getting to a point where it's very hard to stay in formation and achieve necessarily the maneuver we want. We can slow everything down and keep in formation, or we can, and not slow down, we can slow down our acceleration plans or whatever. And then, did we have any repairables here? We do. Let's look. The Ares catapult is gone, so it doesn't get any shots at repairing anymore. However, the transports are very good at repair. They're my strong ships, other than the bases, which have huge repair capacity and are hard to knock out. But let's see. We've got a burn capacity missing here on the 229 as well. That must have gotten hit. And that also does not repair. And now we just move. And there's our picture. If this guy was out of range, he could be withdrawn for free. He would be able to do so using his nuclear engines, which cannot possibly be damaged. Again, I feel like they should be able to be hit, man. Everything is designed in the battle system, and maybe it works out similarly in the actual tactical combat, so that ships have a really hard time actually wiping one another out. You're not going to see the kind of really volatile or really violent combat that you see in a lot of space combat games. In some ways, that sort of fits the motif of this design, which is that they don't actually want to destroy each other. But that applies more to the bases and to the planetary, maybe not the military bases so much, but to the planetary important points. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Targets, whatever. I don't know what to call them, which are just off limits and aren't being attacked at all. And the reason for that is that the miners, outside of like, hey, we could do a lot of damage to Earth. Well, you do enough damage to Earth, and Earth's going to be pissed off at you, and they're going to genocide you. I mean, they're not going to settle for like you destroying their cities and saying, hey, that's it. You might see something like you do in the Ukraine war where, you know, some light targeting to like lower morale. And the Ares Corporation, it owns everything that's rebelling and really doesn't want to lose that stuff. That would be a major cost. Now, the military assets are absolutely, you know, valid targets. The population, etc., that's necessary for Ares to get what it wants. They don't want to set themselves back too much, and obviously, even if if a population is not necessarily in their favor, the Martian revolters like don't necessarily want to knock out an asteroid or something. They need the goods from those asteroids to be able to operate. And they also need resources from Earth, and Earth needs resources from the asteroids, and everybody's so dependent on one another that you're not going to go to a total war type situation, which is nice. I wish we could figure out a way to do that, you know, on our planet. Presuming we want to have wars at all, which, you know, is just insanity, but whatever. For joint burn, the Ares, the Ares guys actually all have burn capacity of at least 1 now. So I am slowing down so I can keep firing. I haven't made the decision to give up on the attack yet. I might make that in the strategic game where, you know, things are a little different, but yeah. After combat, things are looking kind of ugly. We actually got a fair amount of damage. Now, the Martians did all single shots. We did 1 group fire from the Ares Corporation. Let's take a look at what the condition of each of the ships is. So 208, which is this guy over here, has taken a hit on a laser. 221, we already know, they're crippled, no burn capacity. That is this guy. He's still able to fire. He's just got no ability to change his vector, and he cannot fix that. 227 has had his lasers burned out. We know about that. He's essentially out of the battle. And the base is unharmed. We take a look at the Ares ships. We lost the catapult. The miners, 218 has lost a couple of burn. 225 has lost 2 of his lasers. And 229 has lost a burn. 229 is over here. 218 was the guy with 2 burn missing. This guy's got his lasers shot up. I feel like I kind of have to get away and recover. I've knocked 2 of the Martian ships out, essentially. Crippled 2 of their ships. Let's take a look at what that means. I lost a ship, which means the Martians have 4 points. Serious damage, though. I've seriously damaged 2 Martians, which is 4 points. However, if Ares withdraws, it's 1 point per ship. And possession of the location is 4 more points. So a withdrawal would be a significant defeat. However, do I want to save my fleet? is the question. I think what I want to do is I want to pull, continue moving forward. I'm not going to use burns and try to repair. Speaking of which, we're in the repair phase, so let's take a look at who can repair. 208, 1 through 3. Repair says laser. This is not completely gone? I thought I completely burned it out. I thought 220, oh no, 221 just, he isn't crippled yet. He just has no vector, no capacity to generate vectors. So 1 through 3, he can repair 1. All right. He's still at 0 movement, but he is repairing. And then the one crippled ship is 227. He can't repair shit. He was damaged anyway. He's out. He can't fire. He can't do anything. I should probably get him burning and get him off the map, just in case things go terribly wrong. At least I'll have saved him, maybe, because he can have no value on this battle. We go over to the Ares Corporation, and let's see what we get repair-wise. We got a burn to repair there. Okay, we're capable of burning again with that miner. Over here, we haven't been destroyed yet. We got a laser to repair. We get it back. Over here, we got a burn to repair. We get it back. Things are very bad for some of these other ships, though. However, they're not destroyed components. So here, my burn, I can just repair 1 because transports are good. They're solidly able to do that. And likewise here with the laser, I can just repair it. I also, no, it's not 1.5. It's a 1 and then a half for later. So that gets me the repair. And then we move, and these just all vector out 2 more. I'm going to take a little break. I'm feeling out of breath. I'm not sure why. I think it's the pain in my ankle. I've got it wrapped, but I have these little bands that I can put around that help a little bit with the arch, but sometimes I just have to go with the full wrap. And that's becoming more and more common. Unfortunately, I wore my new very blue shoes. And I think they're the problem, is that they're too tight. They're too tight and they're not flexible enough. And whenever I wear non-flexible shoes, that's an issue. But the tightness, I think, is the real problem. I'm having problems on the top of my foot and all that. All right. That means we're at the start of another set. I don't think Ares is going to withdraw. Obviously, the Martians are going to defend their damn base. And, you know, the repair capacity is coming fast enough that I think I can turn around and come by for another pass and see what happens. Side particularly wants to do any burn at this point. Well, now wait a minute. This 227, I may want to get that out of there. That's the problematic guy. He has burn and nothing else. I'm going to throw a couple burn on him just to get him out of the battle so I have a chance of surviving that situation. So I'll put that there. Keep his facing there. And I actually have to put another one there again. I always forget. It's because I'm moving on the x-axis that it's a problem, because it's on both things. And I mark that. We say 227. I mark that here. Once you run out of fuel, you're done. You're not going to burn anymore. You can escape the board with your nuclear engine, but that's it. Imagine how a system like this could use something kind of like Talon does. I seem to recall that used little, see, I don't remember anymore. I seem to recall it used little cards and you kept values on it. How much easier that would be than tracking things on a piece of paper. Of course, it's a lot cheaper to just give people a piece of paper. And it's more convenient in terms of taking up space. Having all kind of like you know, separate things for each ship. But I'm having to look up for my firepower to try to figure out, hey, what do I want to do? You know, what can fire and what can't. I just got an Ares fire, and it's hard. You know, I've got a 2 laser on 302. I just feel like there should be something that shows me these values more easily. I'm finding this harder, or as hard as working with SSDs in SFB to find my firing capabilities. Of course, all the firing happens at once. It makes it a little easier in some ways, I guess. A couple of ships lose their burn capacity this time. 221. This miner still can fire, but it's not going to move from that location. That doesn't change its odds of being captured. Again, it has the nuclear engine, but it feels kind of weird, like there's no boarding or anything like that in the game. It would be possible that it could accelerate out, and it has as much of a chance of succeeding as this guy if he withdraws, assuming, say, Ares is able to win this. And also, and this is big, 304, one of these transports, is now unable to change its vector. It's just going to keep flying off and is out of the battle, essentially, although it does get a couple more shots off before. And we go to repairs. Let's see what we got here. I'll let you know if anything exciting happens. We're assuming that there will be general repairs, but this thing can't do any. It's crippled at this point. This is the lineup for our next. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can declare this withdrawn from combat. I'm going to just pick it up and take it off. Is there a cost to withdrawing? Yeah, you know, there is. I don't have to withdraw. So he was here, he's moving this way. It's actually advantageous to me not to declare him withdrawn, because no matter what, he's going to be seriously damaged. If I also withdraw him, I generate additional points for Ares there. Actually, no, it's each enemy. Yeah, each enemy ship withdrawn. I generate an additional. All right, now to plotting for the next turn. Russians don't want to change anything. I'm happy with this velocity right now. I can pretty much declare what I like. However, Ares has stopped all the ships that can. This is keeping them in range for fire. They actually have a 2-point burn capacity on everything except the one ship that lost its burn. I forgot to fire the fuel off though for that. Joint movement, this is the view we've got. Again, the Z-axis is not doing anything in this scenario really. And in terms of firing, hey, you know, we plinked, we maybe got a hit here and there. Well, we did get a hit. We got a hit on, who was it? This 208 here took another burn hit, and it didn't get to repair anything. Nobody succeeded in their repair checks. The Ares fleet, I believe, is healthy, except for the fact that, you know, one of the ships is crippled and going off. So they're ready to turn and maybe come in for another pass, or maybe just keep plinking at this range. That, I feel like I have an advantage. I have a fire group here. I'm not going to be able to bust the base at this range, likely. Who knows? You can always get really lucky. If I'm going to be going for really lucky, I'd probably not fire as fire groups and just try to bombard him from a long distance and hope for a lucky shot that takes it out. However, there's an advantage with bases. So neutralizing a base is worth 5 points. Of course, possession is worth a huge point. But if I destroy a base, it's only worth 3. So, because if I neutralize, so this is kind of screwed up. Because if I neutralize the base and I don't control the area, I shouldn't get many points for it. But if I control the battlefield and neutralize the base, I get the base. So the point values are a little screwed up. If you're looking at it within the campaign game, I would want to destroy this base if I'm going to leave. I want to neutralize the base if I'm going to win. Well, the result of fire was more dramatic this time. The Ares Corporation lost another transport, the Ares Q. And that's putting them in a really ugly situation. However, I'm close to crippling this ship. So I think I'm going to stick around in order to take that out. I do the repairs and then I'll come back after joint movement. Forgetting to move this guy. His Z component, or his XZ component marker. Just lose track of it because everything's going on here. This is what we got. Like I said, I'm going to stick around and see if I can finish that off. He didn't get a repair. I don't know how much you know about your enemy's chart. I think the game is fairly agnostic about that. I don't think it said anything about being able to see what damage you've got and whether they've got repairs. Obviously, you can get a more interesting situation if you don't know what the enemy's got in terms of their repairs and whatnot. You know what damage you did to them. You rolled that up. But not knowing how much repair that they've been able to accomplish is, could give you a significant choice here. So, for example, I would probably fire these boosters off and get the Ares ships out of the way. The big thing that's the advantage for the Martians is the base. I don't want to. I've also got another ship that's kind of parked right now. So I'd be looking at two ships fighting against one. Plus, as I get closer here, this one is potentially within range of being able to plink me as well. So I think everybody's going to park for now. To cripple this one of its burn capability. I think we're going to leave at this point. We're outgunned, and sure, we could get a lucky shot, but it's just not worth chancing losing my fleet. So, and yeah, I didn't mark all the shots, just the group shots. This was the final one. So we'll roll the repairs. I think there's a hit on a burn factor on one of the Ares ships, which is going to slow. They'll probably only burn one if they don't get the repair, because they'd like to maintain their formation fire for any possible advantage that might give them. It reduces the range. That's the biggest thing that increases the chances. When you get the range lower, you're starting to get those Ds in there. Success on the repair, so yeah, I'm accelerating by 1, and we've got the, ships that can withdraw. This could conceivably withdraw, but I don't want to. For the same reason I don't want to withdraw this. They've got firepower. I'll withdraw them when I withdraw everything. I know I wasn't going to talk too much about other games, but I'm thinking how much easier this is to cope with than another vector movement game, which is Triplanetary. Now, Triplanetary has a weird set of scenarios, and it's less of a tactical situation. It's dealing with, movement within the planets using vector movement. And you have to deal with gravity wells, and it's got all kind of stuff. But the way it accomplishes things is by drawing on the map where your projected move is going to be. And then you just keep that vector. You put a burn on, and that can change what that vector moves to. I found that a much more cumbersome and annoying mechanism to use, but of course it handles stuff a la Traveler, for that matter, like gravity wells and stuff like that, that aren't, necessarily trivial to handle. If you had planetary bodies nearby and whatnot, they would be adding vectors automatically to everything that they hit, and it would, you have orbits in that game and all kind of other stuff. But there's something very annoying about the drawing on the map is fine for the race scenario, but for most of the scenarios in that game, it just ends up being a mess of crayon marks all over the fucking place. And yes, you can erase them as you go, but that gets rid of your, that's the best move to do, is to erase stuff that's long past, because otherwise the board just ends up just a mess of markings. It is fun to draw on the map, though. Ares Corporation ship bites the dust through concentrated fire. The Dusty. being able to reduce the range through concentrated fire, big deal. Also, being able to get high on the chart, like +10, essentially, because of the base. Boom, another one gone. Nasty. Yeah, this is over. It's just a question of what happens. I'm going to be able to burn a little faster now to try to get out of there a little quicker. I'm not 9 away yet, but I will be very shortly. Plinks, I'm no longer traveling in formation. I've got it marked there as if I am, but I'm not. Although the speeds are the same. The plinking this time cut some repairs off of each ship. Again, that's not really a big deal. Those, well, it's a bigger deal for Ares. Mars are at a base, well, at a planet that they're going to control. So they're going to be able to repair all their repair capacity points. Those don't get fixed during the fight, and if they get knocked out, you can't repair anything anymore in the ships. What's going to happen after movement? We're going to be disengaging. Basically, I get my repair rolls. Nobody's got any repairs they can do because all the ships that have damage on them, they're either irreparable damage. Well, I think they are just irreparable damage. I was going to say, or it's the repair point that's gone on the ship. But no, everything's knocked out. The repair point that's gone on the ship, none of those have, well, none of those have otherwise repairable damage. So we jump down to the joint movement phase. And here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. These move as well. I'm not worried about them. All the Ares ships have to disengage at some point or another. Now, you can make arguments in SFB type games. Sometimes you have people like slap themselves into a retrograde movement where neither side is really willing to close to range where they can damage each other or anything. This game's simple because all the fighting is always, the fighting is never an empty space. Empty space is the problem in SFB. When you have fights happen in empty space, you end up having neither side willing to disengage because they get victory points for holding this useless empty space for whatever reason. It can also impact things if you're playing it like in a Fed and Emp campaign where you really don't care too much about the fact that you're disengaging. So there's little harm to declaring that you disengage, you would think. But actually holding the hex is of importance. So you have to kind of make up rules if you're playing in anything, really in any game of SFB, whether it's just a simple battle or if it's, except for base fights and a few other special cases, you have to make up some kind of rules to deal with the fact that like one player can put his ships in reverse and make themselves very potent where the other player doesn't want to advance on them, but they're also not doing anything towards winning the battle. They're just retreating. It's pretty simple to make those rules. Here, there's no question. If I chose not to withdraw here, the map would keep floating. And eventually I would come to the point where, look, there's a fixed base here and you're running away from it. You're out. And that's fine. I mean, the same kind of thing works in SFB. It might happen here where there's a problem when there are no bases in a planetary orbit situation. That can be problematic because then again, there's the question of, yeah, but who's actually leaving and who's not? That should be obvious from the situation. You should be able to declare, look, you left, you know. But, and part of that is that neither side really, you know, there's no real advantage to a retrograde type movement. You're not defensively improved by that. You are in the sense of getting away from the base is valuable, but once you run away from where the base can fire, well, it's up to the defender of the base to decide, do I want to chase you or let you go? And it's that simple. So what we've got is the withdrawal phase. The Ares player is going to declare a withdrawal. We look at the quick victory points. for whatever it's worth, and the base was not neutralized. Enemy ships destroyed. That's going to be 12 points for the Martians. Seriously damaged ships. That's a few of the Martian ships, actually. 1, 2, 3 of them were hit. So it was 12 in favor of the Martians. Take 6 off that. So we're down to 6. Each ship withdrawn, that's another 6 for the Martians. So we're back up to 12 in favor of the Martians. And then up to 16 for possession of the area. So I would say they won a pretty massive victory here. We don't have anything that tells us the historical results. I think I've stated most of my concerns about the system and where it's going. Have I learned anything about it? Yeah, kinda. I kind of learned enough. First of all, I learned nothing about why it's in 3 dimensions and why that choice is of any importance. I think you could play this game out in 2 dimensions just perfectly fine. And I may actually want to get away from the 3 dimensions, given that there's nothing so far that makes it make any sense at all. It does, here's one thing it does. It makes it so that you have to defend more space around a given base or whatever. So if you want to, put a cloud of firepower to take out missiles or whatever that might crack a base, you're going to have to put more in the way. One thing we're going to see with missiles is that the way they're used here, you're always going to get a shot at the incoming missile. So you don't have to worry about the fact that it's not pulsed or whatever. You're going to get a shot at it at its closest approach, basically. Well, no, not quite. You're not going to get a shot at it at its closest approach. You're going to get a shot at it after it's moved with the ship. Because if you look, the missile burn in movement is when you detonate the missiles as well. And that happens before the combat happens. So, yeah. You'll see when we get to it. But, yeah, one of the things is there is something of interest in terms of this moving forward and, moving past and then having to shift back and whatever. Honestly, I feel like the simplified Traveler combat that they use in Melee would actually work perfectly well at this. It's really, what range do you want to be as the attacker? And I think that they went through a lot of effort to build a tactical game that the weaponry and the tactics in this system, or in this particular game, just aren't sufficient to support any kind of additional information that this big, exciting 3D movement and combat system provides. And that's the problem. SPI kept putting out these games where they would add, complex movement systems that work either vector 3D, combination of the two, and then they just wouldn't give you enough to make it worth playing it. Right? There's just not enough to the ship combat, not enough differentiation. Let's see with the missiles and fighters. Maybe they add enough. I doubt it. I think that they might make sense on a 2D vector. I don't think the 3D is going to give you too much. And honestly, again, I think you could actually just do it with bands, saying, I'm going to be at this range, I'm going to be at this range. I don't know.